Bruh, the last time I posted a video, I had locks. Yo, what up everybody? Today we're going to talk about the M10 versus the M240 as a buy getting into the Leica system in 2026. Now, I somewhat went over this in an older video where I talked about buying the M240 in 2023 and should you buy it. But in 3 short years, a lot of things have changed, especially here in the United States, but across the world and in the Leica market. So now that I've gotten an M10, and that's what I've been using over the past 3 months or so, and I am literally about to pack up my M240 and get it out of here because someone literally paid for it today. I want to talk about it before I get it packed up and out of here. So what up to all the new people, which is statistically most of you. My name is Chris. I'm a photographer based in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I like to shoot documentary and portrait work. I've shot with Fuji cameras for over a decade and Leica cameras over the past 2 to 3 years, both personally and a little bit professionally. So after rocking the M10 for a little bit and comparing it to the M240, I thought, you know what? It's worth it to make a new video and talk about some of these changes that have happened. And is it worth it to get you an M240 if you're just trying to get into it, or should you save up a little bit more and get the M10? So I'm not gonna hold you hostage, just get it straight out the way. Image quality wise, these two cameras and good lighting are really close. I don't know if I'd be able to tell a difference if I was looking on my computer screen outside of, some of the colors, but if we edited them the same way, would I be able to tell a difference between the two with good lighting? I doubt it. So image quality wise, in controlled or good lighting, it's a bit of a wash. It's just the other things around it that can make you choose one camera or the other. So I just want to get it out the way. Image quality wise, M240 is still hitting and good lighting as long as you expose correctly. Now, where it's going to lose out is definitely going to be dynamic range and its ISO. So the M240 ISO tops out at 6400, and again in the camera it literally says it's a push. So I believe it's really 3200 and the camera's just pushing it up one stop, which honestly you should just shoot 3200 and push it yourself in Lightroom, which is going to do a better job than this camera that came out in 2014, I believe. So with that, the M10 goes up to, I believe it's 50,000. I've never shot at 50,000, but I've shot 10,000. I've seen usable stuff at 25,000 too. Now, the bad thing about that 6400 or the lowest ISO on the M240 is that if you are trying to save those photos, oftentimes you're not gonna be able to. It's time to just convert it to black and white, because when you pull up, if you underexpose too much or because of your ISO, when you pull that up, you're gonna get a lot of banding and everything in your shadows. You're not gonna be really able to save those. It's not just, if you pull it up and it gets really white, it's literally like you'll see the electronic noise as it goes through. Doesn't look good. I have never found a way to save it. Again, we are in 2026 now as we're recording this, so with AI editing, maybe, there's something better out there, but so far, I have not seen it even with using like current Lightroom technology. But again, things may change. Now with the M10, as I said, I have definitely shot this at like ISO 10,000, got usable images. Now I have never delivered a client image at 10,000 that I can think of, but for social media, personal work, things like that, I would definitely use 10,000. Of course, for a client, I'd have better lighting. But for me, I've used ISO 10,000 on here and been happy with the results. I haven't gone too much above that, but that's mostly because I haven't needed to. At 10,000, if I'm shooting anything higher than that, I probably can't even see to focus. So so far 10,000 and 12.5 maybe once by accident, but really 10,000 has been the limit, and so far I haven't had to go over it. But the fact that I could almost double my ISO versus these is a big plus and something to consider. So let's talk about the good things about the M240. Number one, obviously, it's gonna be price. This is right now one of, if not the, I would say honestly, the best way to get into a digital M body is going to be your M240 base model. You can spend a little bit more on the M240p, but honestly, the only thing that you get with the M240p is, I think it's like you get like the stronger glass, which again, I've never broken an LCD on my camera. I always have a LCD protector, so that's never been an issue for me. You also get the higher buffer. Now, if you do shoot continuous a lot, that buffer can come in handy, because on the M240 base model, it's shooting continuous. It's not a good look. I took it to my M240 to a skate park a couple years ago, and if I shot it on continuous, it locked up and I had to pull out the battery, and it happened consistently. I'm sure I could recreate it now, but this camera is no longer mine. It's been paid for, so I'm not going to do that. But to the point where you have to, again, pull it here, pull it out, put it here, then go back. That's a lot of stuff to do. And while I do enjoy the romanticism and the nostalgia of the bottom plate, it's annoying when you got to pull it out in the field. And it was a relatively cold day. I had gloves on, so that means I got to take my gloves off, pull the battery out, pop, pop, pull it back in. At the time, I still had my XH1, so I just basically had to go use that for any action sequences. And then my M camera was more for documentary purposes and the vibes around. But I wanted to try to shoot everything on the Leica, and it literally just couldn't. Whereas my M10, I don't have that issue. The M240 has a 2 gigabyte buffer, which I believe doesn't have that issue either, but I have not personally tried it. M240p, I should say, excuse me, has a 2 gigabyte buffer. So I haven't personally used it, but I believe it would alleviate that issue. But something to keep in mind. Price wise, you can't beat the M240 to getting into digital M's, and honestly, getting into M bodies at all, including film, is still up there. It's not gonna be number one. You could probably get an M2 or M3 for cheaper, but once you start getting into the M4s and M6s and M7s, honestly, you're probably paying less to get you an M240. The next pro is just the abundance. I see M240s on sale all the time for good prices. You can get them for around 2,000 USD. I see some of the 240p still going for close to 3. And again, I personally wouldn't find that buffer worth it. I rarely shoot continuous, but if you shoot continuous, again, keep that in mind that if you're gotta get an M240p, you're only about $900 to $1,000 for getting you an M10. Is it worth saving up for a few more months? Well, so one of the huge benefits that everyone talks about with the M240p is the battery life. The battery life is very good on the M240p. It is a large battery. If you can see here, it's very big. And with that big ass battery, it lasts a very long time. I only have the one battery for this camera because, we'll talk about that later, is an issue, but I can get by a good week of casual shooting without having to charge this battery. I've shot weddings front to back with one battery on this. My last M240p, I had 3 batteries. I sold one because I literally never had to swap out another battery the same day. I had to just because, you know, I always like to have a spare. And so I could be using one and charging the other and not have to worry about, did I charge my battery last night? But I've never had M240 just die on me because I was shooting too much. It had to be negligence and just straight up not charging my battery. Now, this is another pro minor, but the EVF. You can get the Olympus VF2 that they made for the Olympus Pen cameras back in the day. Or if you want to spend a little bit more money, you can get the Leica version, but it's got a little built-in EVF that you can put into your hot shoe. If you want to use something like a Noctilux or one of those 1.4s and you need to verify your focus, let's say you're shooting client work and you know, like, I feel good with a rangefinder, but I want to have that EVF just to test and make sure I'm good. This is available, pretty abundant. I see them all the time on eBay, and you can copy one if you want to have that EVF versus the EVFs that are available for the M10 and M11, which they are out there, but they're Leica branded only, which means you're going to be paying a bit more. Then finally, the colors and the image quality. The M240, a lot of people kind of like the M10 and the M8. They like that M240 colors. This was the first CMOS sensor that was available. And so while people were kind of complaining about losing the M9 colors, I see a lot of people say that they like the contrasty and punchy colors of the M240. I personally do. I love the way the reds and yellows are rendered on the M240, but I like them on the M10 as well. But some people say they really just enjoy the colors on the M240, so I thought I'd mention it. But image quality, especially, again, this is a camera that came out in one moment. I'm gonna actually double check. I thought it was 2014, bro. This camera came out in 2012. We're talking about a 14-year-old camera. This camera is the same age as my cat, bro. She's doing well too. Just came back from the vet. So yeah, we got a 14-year-old camera, still doing well, still giving you good image quality, giving you good colors, big battery, decent price for Leica, and highly abundant. Why wouldn't you want to buy that versus the M10? Again, let's go into the cons now. So some of the cons I've mentioned probably in my previous video, so I'm not going to try to overdo it. I'm not going to mention price as a con, because once you kind of get into Leica, you know you're going to be spending a little bit more money. When I say I'm not going to mention price, I'm not going to talk about price of the body. Yes, this is more expensive than something like a SL. Maybe even a Leica SL2 you could get for around the same price or cheaper than you can get this M body and have all that. And then there's plenty of other cameras like the Panasonics and stuff like that. And the Sony, you can get probably a Sony R2 or whatever at this point for cheaper. We're not going to get into the price of the body on that because, again, you're paying for the experience. You can't get this same experience anywhere else unless you're going to go shoot film, and your boy ain't got time for all of that. I want to shoot film occasionally, and I'm gonna, but I've been pricing out what film costs and developing, and it's the time investment, and it's not something I would be willing to do currently on a regular basis. I'm definitely going to shoot some film occasionally, but it's not going to be my go-to. So we're not going to get into that on the body side. Again, I kind of harped on it, but the ISO ceiling is one of the big cons. The fact that you're going to be maxed out at like 3200 realistically if you're shooting color, 6400 if you're shooting black and white, and again, hope you like some deep shadows. I already talked about the buffer. Again, it has only that one time has it been an issue when I was shooting at the skate park, but of course it's only been an issue that one time because I knew that now going forward, I can't use continuous. So even if there was another time where I'd be like, man, I love to use continuous with this camera, I know that 5-6 photos in, my camera's gonna freeze up. Well, not 5-6 photos, but you know, again, it's not gonna be reliable. I might get maybe 10, honestly. It's not a lot. As I said, when I first had my M240, I had 3 batteries, and I was able to get 3 batteries for well under retail easily, and I sold one because I didn't need 3 with this camera. I only needed 2, one that I could rock, one to charge, one basically, because again, I never have to swap out the same day. But here in 2026, batteries are not abundant. Leica has said several times what I've seen over the years, not just like recently, but I've seen this over the past 2-3 years as I've been more into Leica and been on the forums and stuff, and people are talking to Leica workers and everything else, sending emails and everything saying, hey, batteries are gonna come, batteries are gonna come, batteries are gonna come. Batteries have still not come. If you go look on eBay right now, you're gonna find batteries for $300-400, and there's gonna be like 2-3 of them, and someone's eventually gonna pay for that because, again, one battery, if something happens to this, you got a brick. You got a nice, sexy brass brick sitting on there until you decide to until you either get lucky or you decide to go ahead and say, I'm gonna drop $300-400 on this battery, bro. I bought the Mandrel lens for cheaper than what a battery would cost right now on eBay, unless you get lucky on a forum and someone's gonna be nice, because even then they're gonna charge you $250, $300, because you're still technically saving some money and they're gonna get a come up on that. So That's a big deal for a 12-year-old 14-year-old camera, excuse me, that you can't find batteries. And Leica has this thing with being proprietary, and this particular battery has not been made by any third parties. So you get this camera, be aware that you're going to need to get you a second battery because they're just not available, and you're going to pay out the wazoo for it. On the flip side, the M10 does not have this issue, mainly because they do have third-party batteries available as of, I believe, last year. Actually, in 2025 is when I started seeing the third-party batteries start popping up, or was actually, no, it was actually a little bit earlier, about 2024 or so, I think. But yeah, recently those third-party batteries came out because the M10 was in the same boat. There was not a lot of M10 batteries available either, but for whatever reason, there's third-party batteries available now for the M10 as well as the SL batteries, the ones they use. So the SL line, and I think the Q, I believe, uses the same batteries too, but there are third-party batteries available for those. So I do have one Leica battery for my camera M10, but I do have two third-party batteries, and again, they're pretty good. Now the M10 battery is not as good as the M240. I have had to switch during a day of shooting with the M10. Now with that, I know some of you are like, third-party batteries, what is this poor shit you're talking about? Sorry bro, I have never had an issue with third-party batteries. I have had him swell a little bit, but at that point, it's time to go to Home Depot and drop them off and dispose of them properly. I've never had it short, never had anything catch on fire. I personally have used third-party batteries in every single camera I've owned that allows them. And I use third-party chargers almost exclusively. Actually, not even almost. Exclusively, I've used third-party chargers unless I didn't have one here, and that only is until I get one, because, you know, Costar and Wasabi always got your back and they're gonna build something. So some people will be like, I wouldn't, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and spend the $250, $300 or whatever it is to cost for a OEM M10 battery. Never had an issue, and you know, we'll see, you know, knock on wood, of course, but I believe in third-party batteries, especially in, again, 2026. We have a lot of technology for battery testing and things like that. I think we're good, but you do you. In the grand scheme of things, this is a pretty small con, but I'm gonna bring it up, and that's gonna be accessories. Again, 14-year-old camera. So maybe people are not, a 14-year-old expensive camera, kind of niche camera. So like you can see, we get the thumbs up. We're gonna find plenty of those. The thumb grip. This is actually a Hoag thumb grip, so we got that. But when it comes to small things, like there's a adapter you can buy that Leica made that allows you to actually tether with this camera. It goes here, you know, it's a little hand grip, and then it'll give you a USB port, and you could tether with this. Now, how fast of it, I don't know, because I can't find it. I don't know. I think I've seen it maybe once or twice, but you can't find them. There's a microphone adapter if you want that for this, because it does have video, but I've seen, you know, here. Again, Leica sometimes will do weird proprietary things. So like, for example, the Leica SL, the original, the Type 601, is an awesome camera, and I've honestly thought about buying it again, but one of the main problems is that it does not have a microphone adapter. Or sorry, it has a mic input, but it has a proprietary mic input, and you need an adapter to get it, a discontinued adapter with no other third-party option. And I searched for it recently, just wondering, hey, could I get another one and maybe use the SL as my video camera and my EVF camera? And no, I cannot find it anywhere. And so that means my audio solutions would have to change and all that for that camera. And so Leica will do things like that sometimes. And because it's an older camera, you're not gonna find things like a skin. So when I bought that camera, I wanted to do what I did here, where I make it basically the paparazzi, because it's not a real reporter. And I saw some M240p skins, but no M240 skins. And you can't use the M240p skins because, again, they have to cut out for the script. The Leica dot is not the same size as the screw. So I know this because I bought it and think, hey, maybe it'll still just fit over and I won't have to worry about that. But no, it won't. As I said, it's an overall slight issue, but it is a real one, something that can be a little frustrating. if you know you're going to upgrade to the M10, you may put certain things on hold knowing that you're not going to want to buy it again, like I did. Like again, I got this came with the camera, but I would have gotten a cheap thumb grip because I know the one that I really want, I'm gonna have to buy it again if I were to get it with here. So I just held on to it. So here are my conclusions. If you shoot in the daytime, typically, if you shoot in controlled lighting and you control your own lighting typically, or let's be real, you know you really want a Leica, you got some money saved up. You're saving up for an M10, but you come across a good deal on a 240 like I did, and you say, hey, I'm gonna buy this 240 in the meantime. And then when a good M10 comes up, I'll buy that one and I'll sell the 240. Then yes, go ahead and get you an M240. You don't wanna wait. I didn't wanna wait. I want that Leica experience. Just, you know, you want that rangefinder experience. You wanna use, you know, you want that tactile feel on the glass as you manual focus. You want to imagine the scene and shoot it how you want it to be, and then see if you got it right and challenge yourself. And you don't feel like waiting because you're impatient and you have ADHD and you were unmedicated at the time. Then yes, go ahead and pick you up a 240. It's a dope camera still. 14 years later. Wish my cat was here. I'd pick her up right now and be like, 14 years. She's hanging out in the living room. She didn't want to hear me talk to you guys. It could also be a relatively cheap way for you to see if you actually want to use a rangefinder. I typically see on the forums and on Reddit, I'll see people who have been shooting with a Q and say, you know what, I think I want to use a rangefinder. I love the, you know, I'm liking the way I shoot with this. And then they find out they don't really like rangefinders because they want an EVF or something like that. And that's totally fine, but it's a lot different if you spent $2,000 versus, you know, $4,000 and up, and then you gotta put that back up. You know, it's a different leveraging of yourself. So I totally get that. I think that's another valid reason to get this camera, is you just want to try it out knowing you're gonna sell it later. I would say skip the 14-year-old M240 if you shoot in various lighting conditions. You shoot in the dark or dimly lit areas often. If you care about the technology, which I do a bit, if you care about, again, having batteries, if you care about Wi-Fi, it's not a deal breaker for me not to have Wi-Fi, but it's so nice to have Wi-Fi when I'm like, I took 2 or 3 photos, and it's not a full shoot, I just took a couple photos, and I don't have to take my SD card out of my camera, put it in an adapter, put it in my iPad just to load into Lightroom a few photos. Now just go Leica Photos app, pull in those 2. That is nice, and I do enjoy that. And I didn't miss it when I was on the 240 when I didn't have Wi-Fi coming from Fuji and Leica SL. Yeah, it was something I noticed and something I did miss. But overall, I still say that M240, if you cannot get the M10, or if you don't care about getting the M10, is still a good buy here in 2026. I bought it originally in 2022. I bought it again in 2025, and I would buy it again next year if I wanted a backup M camera that I just want to keep, and it was available for an awesome price that I didn't mind just literally keeping on the shelf. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. It's a lovely camera. This is the camera that got me into Leica when I first held it in a Leica store in San Francisco 10 years ago, and it still feels awesome. I'm happy that it's gonna go to a new awesome home. I hope they take really good care of it. I hope they use it. This camera means a lot to me. Like I said, like 10 years ago, I'm holding it in my hands at a Leica store, and I was like, I'm gonna get one of these one day. And I did. So I'm starting to ramble a bit. We're gonna cut this off. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you actually got to the end of the video, hit the comments. Tell me where you're from. What do you shoot, like camera-wise? What do you shoot genre-wise? Let's get into a little conversation. I'm trying to be consistent a little bit more on this YouTube stuff. I'm not gonna set up a schedule or anything, but you're gonna see me a little bit more often as I have some stuff planned. So I'll catch you next time. Peace.